I used to live alone in an old farmhouse, deeply nestled in the Vermont countryside. The majority of the time, it was a peaceful escape from the rat race of life, but on occasion, the solitude could feel deeply oppressive. That feeling of being isolated can play tricks on your mind, but on this occasion there was no trick at play, just something truly sinister, the type of experience that most people only imagine in the darkest corners of their mind. It all started normally enough. I work in insurance, specifically handling claims. I'm the person you're forced to talk to when your claim is denied. It's a repetitive and emotionally draining task. I've become quite accustomed to the sound of disappointment as I recite the reasons for rejection, and it takes a toll on my own empathy, which dwindles day by day. My final call was from an upset woman trying to file a medical expenses claim, her voice quivering with distress. This is the worst kind of call. She just wouldn't give up. In the end, I had to be blunt and bring the conversation to a hard close. This was at the end of a 12-hour shift, and I was exhausted. It was now late in the evening, and I flop onto the couch and listen to my meditation app. It's how I unwind. It filters out all of the shit I've had to deal with in the day. I'm about halfway into the session when I start hearing a tapping sound. As you can imagine, living in the countryside, I'm used to strange noises, but it's so persistent that it has me curious. I walk over to the window and flick on the garden lights. Everything is still. Even the fields of tall grass beyond my garden fence lay quiet. There's not even a breeze. The noise has now stopped. I continue to scan the garden and then shrug it off, concluding that it must have been a critter that got scared away by the light. I spend the rest of the evening drinking wine and listening to music. Later that night, I'm sat in bed reading a book. The covers are drawn up to my chin and I'm snacking on some chocolate-covered almonds. Suddenly, my fingers pause between the pages as I hear that odd tapping sound again. This time it sounds purposeful, like someone's trying to get my attention, filling my home with a haunting rhythm. With a mix of dread and fascination, I slip out of bed and venture down the creaky wooden staircase. But just as suddenly as it began, it stops, leaving me in a bewildering silence. I move around the house with caution, flicking on the lights and double-checking the locks on every door. That's one thing that I'm grateful for, the fact that I have solid locks fitted. Living alone is the one thing that I would never compromise on. I stand in my lounge, waiting to see if the knocking will return. But the night remains quiet, with no signs of disturbance. Puzzled and uneasy, I return to my room. The next morning I rummage through my storage and retrieve a box of security cameras I had bought a few years ago at a Black Friday sale. The tapping noise had piqued my curiosity, and I was hoping that strategically placing them around my property would provide me with some answers. At the very least, it would be entertaining to watch all the nocturnal wildlife scampering around my garden. The cameras were small and discreet, and I got to work fitting them to the front, back and side of my house. They were motion activated, and an app on my phone meant that I could watch back any recorded footage and even access a live feed. Once they were installed, I got a wave of relief. I felt safer already, knowing that I could keep an eye on things even when I wasn't home. That night I went to bed feeling more at ease. This time there was no interruption as I read my book, and I fall to sleep without much trouble at all. But at around 2 a.m, I am awoken by a notification on my phone. It says that a motion has been detected at the front of my house. My heart racing, I open up the security app and watch the live feed. I'm relieved to see that everything looks normal, just the empty yard and the shadows of the trees swaying in the breeze. It's the first time I've properly used the app, and I figure it must have been set off by a tree branch or something. I set my phone down on my bedside table and close my eyes. I've got myself all worked up, and I practice some breathing exercises to calm my nerves. My body starts to relax. My eyes are growing heavy, and I'm moments away from falling back into a deep slumber when another notification jolts me back into the room. I pick up my phone to see an alert that reads, "Front of house. Someone has been spotted." The notification has me in a bit of a panic, and as I fumble my way through the app, another warning pings onto the screen. "Side of house. Someone has been spotted." Then another. "Back of house. Someone has been spotted." With a trembling finger, I tap on the alert, which takes me to the first video clip. The camera's night vision isn't particularly good. A lot of the objects seem to blend into one another, but it doesn't take me too long to spot a dark figure creeping around the edge of my house. My heart is racing. With a shaking hand, I skip forward to the most recent video, the one taken from the back of my house. That prowler is in one of my flower beds on their hands and knees before disappearing into thin air. I watch the footage back again, trying to understand what I'm seeing. Then a veil of terror drapes over me as I join the dots. The flower beds are positioned by my basement window. The figure was vanishing because they're crawling into my basement. Right on cue, the tapping begins. I rush out onto the landing and peer down the stairs. The steady rhythm pulses through the ground floor. My blood runs cold, now knowing that the noises are coming from inside my house. That was enough for me. I fumble for my phone and call the police, telling them that someone was in my house and that I was in danger. The operator instructs me not to go downstairs and to lock myself in the bathroom. She says the police are on their way. I follow her instructions. The woman stays on the phone with me as I crouch down next to the airing cupboard, with my eyes fixed on the bathroom door. Every little sound in my house is making me jump. I'm convinced that I can hear someone creeping around. The woman on the other end of the phone tries to calm me down and finally tells me when the police are outside my house. I hear them banging on the front door. I nervously slip out of the bathroom and linger at the top of the stairs. I can see red and blue lights sweeping across the walls of the ground floor. I rush to the front door and let the officers in. I tell them that the person might still be on the property, and they sit me in their squad car while they take a look around. They thoroughly inspect the area. The lock on the back door was mangled, and all 4 bars that protect the basement window have been sheared off. But what sent a chill down my spine was when one of the officers showed me a duffel bag that had been left near the basement door. Inside were plastic sheets, several feet of rubber tubing, a bandsaw, and an old gas mask. Scattered at the bottom of the bag were 3 family photographs with surnames printed on the back. The officer gave me a solemn look and told me I did the right thing by calling them. It looks like I narrowly avoided a very grim confrontation. To the best of my knowledge, the intruder was never caught. Whoever broke in was meticulous. Months later, the police did make a connection for the photographs. They were people that had contacted the company I work for and who had been denied payouts. Everyone in the photos lived out of state with solid alibis, only adding to the mystery of why I had been targeted. And so it remained a haunting enigma with no solace and no resolution. My only real choice was to relocate. I wasn't going to risk that psycho returning to finish off what they started. There's no silver lining for me, only further illumination of the fact that it's a sick world that we live in. A really sick world.